Hey everyone, welcome to our CoPilot webinar. All very
We'll be
exciting.
kicking off shortly. Just wait for a few more people to join, and we'll give everyone a few more extra minutes.
And please do use the chat. There we go. Yeah, pretty pumped, man. Got some interesting demo. Yeah, I've got some interesting demo stuff coming up. So hopefully, all goes well. We shall see. You never know, right? It's AI, so I mean, anything could happen.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
We do trust
I'm sure
it
it goes well as always, mate. As well as always.
Yeah, we trust it implicitly. Hey, folks.
Exactly. Hi, guys. We're just waiting a extra couple of minutes and just waiting for some more people to join, and then we'll kick off.
Very exciting. So this is my third CoPilot webinar in a day and a half. It's kind of popular, right?
Yes, it's gone mental, which is good. It's good, and definitely within legal, there's some good use cases already, and that will continue to grow as obviously the technology grows.
Absolutely. Folks, I don't know if you can see, but you should be able to use the chat. So if you want to ask questions while we're going, we'll try and keep an eye on it as we're talking. May not get to everything right away, but yeah, please feel free to interact in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Give it till 2 minutes past, and then we'll kick off.
Totally. I always think teams should have that holding music or something where people can select their own tune, like a team's jukebox. Yeah.
And remove the ping every time that someone joins.
I remember doing one of these, and there were 600 people, and they were joining intermittently, and it was like ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. Cool. I think there'll obviously be a few more people joining, but I think we should probably crack on.
I reckon you're right.
Cool. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I know this has been highly anticipated. It's been a good few months in terms of knowing that this was going to be going live. So yeah, we're going to be going through specifically around legal and how Microsoft Copilot can maximize efficiency within your business. So a few bits of housekeeping before we kick off. So this will be recorded. You'll all get a recording following the end of the session. Please do stay on mute. And if you do have questions, please do post them in the chat. We'll be answering throughout, and we'll be more than happy to do some follow-ups following the session as well. So what's on the agenda today? So we'll just do a quick round of introductions. I'll run through 5-10 minutes, just some of the legal use cases we're seeing at the moment, and then Chris will go through what is Copilot. He'll go through a demo, which will be specific sort of use cases around legal, governance, how to govern your ecosystem, which is always very important and key. And I know from having a few meetings prior to this session that that's something that's been brought up significantly. And then we'll wrap up. So on to some introductions. So yeah, I'm Fraser Vincent. I sit within the professional services team here at ANS. I look after specifically legal within our enterprise team. And I'll hand over to Chris.
Hey folks, my name is Chris Huntingford. I'm the Director of Digital Innovation here at ANS, and at the moment wearing the hat of low-code lead and ecosystem architect. So I get to run around and tell people all about all the wonderful new things coming around and why they are important. So hopefully I'll get to show you some really interesting tech today.
Perfect, thanks Chris. So yeah, just to start off with, I suppose speaking to a lot of legal organisations at the moment around CoPilot and AI, etc. It's a great space in terms of picking up good use cases, and significant business case, and ultimately that is by reducing the time needed to spend on day-to-day tasks for your fee earners, and essentially drive more revenue by them being able to spend more time on tasks that are revenue generating, and ultimately becoming more profitable as a business. Also, we're seeing a lot around keeping up to date with AI within the legal space is key. This is being driven by the top down. I'm sure you'll see a lot of your managing partners, COOs, etc., asking you, how are we going to deliver? How are we going to deploy an AI strategy? If we don't, we could end up losing staff because of the efficiencies and the gains that our fee earners can see by these technologies being implemented. So just to run through a few of the sort of key use cases we're seeing at the moment that directly link to CoPilot. So we've got document creation. So a lot of these documents, legal documents that are having to be created by lawyers, etc., fee earners before going into court, etc. These are, it's pretty time-consuming stuff, right? And this can be automated through connection to the likes of Word, also your Outlook, so your emails, etc. Ultimately, to reduce that time that's needed to be spent on tasks that are day to day and can be automated, and your lawyers can go and spend time on those revenue generating tasks. And then we've got chatbots. There's going to be multiple use cases for chatbots, but the one key sort of use case we're seeing at the moment is around gaining information internally. So asking how we sorry, just a couple of questions there, Chris, and then legal questions around sort of basic level legal questions that you're going to have to go out and Google, or you're going to have to go and speak to some of your internal staff or your colleagues. If you've got that chatbot internally for internal use, you can ask your questions there, and hopefully it comes back with some relevant answers for your legal documentation that you're sending out to clients that you might use in court. And also, if you're on the phone to a customer, to a client, and they have some questions, legal specific, that you don't know off the top of your head, then if you can go into that chatbot and ask, it reduces that time that's spent trying to find that information out through other sources. Data extraction, so that we can plug this into other data sources to understand that what sort of information we're looking to try and get hold of to implement into documentation, implement into scripts for court, etc. And that's another key use case. And then legal research, so seeing what's going on in the market, seeing some of the challenges that our customers are facing. So a lot of your customers will be facing challenges that you're resolving through your legal teams, and then you're going to be bringing on new customers that you're going to need to provide these types of information for. So a lot of it is coming down to the accuracy of the data that's seen internal, and we will, in terms of the data sources, what we can do is we can help you through cleansing that data, making sure that there's a clear data strategy in place, because ultimately if the data is not there, then you're going to struggle to put the right information out. But those are some of the key use cases that we're seeing at the moment. They will continue to grow. Chris will go through some of the changes that's been happening within CoPilot. It's changing hourly. Microsoft are giving us updates hourly in terms of the new services, etc., that are popping up within CoPilot, and it will continue to change, and these use cases will grow. There are plenty of other use cases as well that we can run through, but keen to have some conversations following this around the use cases and understanding some of the challenges that you're having internally that could be resolved through CoPilot, and also further AI services that we'll look to continue to grow throughout the Microsoft ecosystem. So yeah, following that, I'll hand over to Chris to run through a bit around CoPilot, the technology. Then also some, he's going to do a live demo, which should be really interesting, specifically around a couple of these use cases, etc. So yeah, I'll hand over to Chris.
Sweet, thanks, Fraser. Right. So I hope everyone can see that. Fraser, can you just give me the thumbs up if you got that there?
Yes, I can see that, sir.
Nice. Alrighty. Hey folks. So yeah, we're gonna talk a bit about Copilot in particular today. Now, remember, I'm not going in depth into LLMs, right? So that's a different thing. We can talk about that at another point, but this is more focusing on the Copilot layer. And if you want to get deep into Gen AI, it's definitely another discussion for another day, right? So I'll do my best to answer whatever you put in the chat, but this is specifically around Copilots. So I'm just letting you know that. Anyway, so AI is here, right? Isn't that exciting? I think that if I go back to around the year 1996, some of you will remember that, some of you won't. I certainly do, because I remember it was when the first browser-based process came out, right? And it was quite interesting because search engines, Larry Brin and Sergey Page from Larry Page and Sergey Brin from Google, they fired out this amazing search function. We had Yahoo and all sorts of things, and everyone thought that their jobs were going to be taken through this amazing functionality. And lo, we still sit in technology and make stuff with code. Anyway, AI is here. This is not a fad. This is not a thing that is going to go away. All right. Something else that was pretty interesting is that when you drive out and start thinking about what's happened since the year 1996, we get to the year 2000, and people thought that all the clocks would break when they ticked over, and yet again IT systems still live. And then the kind of idea of digital transformation came around in 2012 by our friends Capgemini. And the idea of low code came around in 2015, and we all thought developers were going away. And lo, we are still short 4 million developers in the world, and created loads and loads of jobs. Yeah. So I don't think that AI is going to necessarily take everyone's jobs, but I think that people who learn AI will have a much better position. So it is definitely here to stay. Like I said, we're on AI wave, probably hype cycle wave 2 on AI now, and we're going to go into 3 very soon. And your kind of concepts here should be that this is really, really going to be sticking to a lot of things. Okay. Now, here's something interesting. When you start thinking about the impacts of AI, Carmack said something interesting, and they estimated an individual would say take 11 years to do what Azure OpenAI service was able to do in days. So again, saving a lot of time. And Progressive is saving 100 million annually on AI-powered chatbots. It's pretty crazy, right? And then if you look at EY, they're saving 250,000 hours of manual work per client using intelligent documentation automation. It's insane. It's absolutely wonderful what's going on here. We're in a world of complete and utter enablement. I feel like digital transformation is gone and done. That's finished. We're in the era of enablements, where we're now being pushed by Microsoft and other vendors to really learn how to use these tools to enable our lives at work and make things a lot easier. So I'm hoping some of you recognize that symbol over there. And I've used the old one on purpose, actually. But it's pretty interesting because this jolly old website took approximately 2 months to become the most visited website on the planet. Now, those of you on the call who recognize the other logos, you may be users of these, you may not be. The point is that it was really, really well adopted across the board, which is quite interesting because I feel like this probably happened at this scale in around 1996, 97, when all these amazing search engines were released, and people were thinking, hey, what do we do with this stuff? How do we get access? How do we make our lives easier? So it's super exciting. Now, obviously, Microsoft decided that, hey, you know what? This is really good technology. We should cotton on to this. By the way, this logo has changed officially. So if you're looking at what's happening in Microsoft 365 Copilots, you'll notice that there's a nice bright kind of rainbowy logo, which is really exciting. But yeah, I want to tell you something though. This stuff, a lot of folks think that Microsoft kind of stumbled onto by accident, and we're like, oh, we will just buy into this program of work. But there's an article released by Satya Nadella, and it was some time back. And actually, the embedment of AI into Microsoft products is actually not a new thing. It really isn't. It's been around for a long time. We've actually been using it a lot longer than you think. In fact, in tools like Power BI, that was embedded roughly 2019 around there when they were doing natural query language. So yeah, GPT-2 and other tools like that have been inside the products for a while. This is not something that they stumbled on. This has been very well planned and very well thought out. Okay, so this isn't like a haphazard thing. And I feel like they've waited the right time to do a lot of this. Anyway, so kind of how does this work? What exactly is CoPilot? Well, it's a productivity tool that turns your words into actions. That's the best way I can explain it, right? So, what it does is it allows you to take the things you physically say or type, um, and it changes those things or transmogrifies them into real tangible benefits and real tangible things. By the way, the term transmogrify is taken from Bill Watterson's Calvin and Hobbes, and it means to magically change. Okay. Now, if you think about the concept of how it does this, well, it looks into a thing called a LLM or a large language model, which is kind of a neural network, and enables you to kind of draw from that artificial intelligence and actually transform your words into something real and something active. Okay. Now, with Copilot and with GPT living in the background, we're able to take that model and apply it to the physical world inside the digital world. Okay. And what that means is that an app or an Excel document or a Word document for that matter, we can really change the way in which you interact with that physical tool set. It gets really intense when you start looking at, I'm going to get nerdy now, by the way, when you start looking at, say, as an example, you've got a set of unstructured data like legal documents, and you've got a CRM type system with structured data, and then you have the Microsoft Graph with contextual data, and you connect that LLM and Copilot to that specific set of data, you're able to do some pretty damn magical things with it. Now, Copilot out the box connects up to the product, but you can actually build custom Copilots as well, which I'll walk you through a little later. So pretty important is that this stuff is really, really, really critical around, going to be really critical around the way in which you interact with data. I'm going to pause there and say one thing to you. Sort your data out. I'm not kidding. Like I put it in the chat already. If you want good results, you need to fix your data. And when Hype Cycle Wave 3 hits, when you have a single Copilot interface across hundreds of products, your data better be in top shape, right? This is really important. So if you kind of look at the launch pattern, which has been pretty interesting, you can see that, Bing Copilot was one of the first ones to come out, same with GitHub Copilot. And then you really start looking into things like Power Apps, Power Automate, Dynamics 365, security. These are the kind of core copilots that are either coming into GA or are GA, right? GA being general availability. So Microsoft have released loads and loads more copilots. And I actually want to see if anyone knows this. If anyone wants to put in the chat, I want to ask you, how many copilots do you think Microsoft have released since Microsoft Build in the last few months? So that's like May. Just take a guess, right? So how many copilots do you think Microsoft have physically released since May? And it's pretty crazy, right? So we've got 1,300. Steve, man, I wish. Wonderful guess though. Yeah. So it's getting pretty interesting, right? Like they haven't actually, yeah, there we go. 150, 161, 135, wonderful. 500. Yeah, excellent. So if you look at all the products, right, that Microsoft have released, you've got PowerPoint, you've got Outlook, a load of them. I will tell you that since Microsoft Build, 120 copilots have been released into either public preview or GA. So I guess, Nigel, you're probably the closest, man. Congratulations. You get a physical or virtual high five. There we go. 120. The other crazy part is there are 148 Copilot SKUs that have been released. That is bananas. So if this wasn't planned, how have they managed to release this many embedded copilots into solutions across the entire stack? It blows my mind, right? So yeah, like I said, this is going to be here to stay. This ain't going anywhere. This ain't going anywhere but up. Now, what we discovered working at ANS, and I say this with every possible non-salesy bone in my body because I am not a salesperson, I'm a techie, is that when you look at the structure around what's going on, right? You've obviously got your kind of before cloud, like on-prem type approach, And then you'll have Microsoft Azure, which we obviously would love people to move to. I say to people all the time, you know, when you look at what's on premise, Microsoft's pit bulls and ninjas are bigger than everyone's. Even though you think they're not, they really are, I promise. I've seen what happens in security. And then from a digital perspective, the layers that live on top of Azure, like take data and AI. Microsoft released a tool called Fabric, and that plugs into a tool called OneLake. And Fabric is going to be one of the mechanisms for you to query that data or interact with that data through a single layer, which is absolutely bonkers. Look at Dynamics 365. So some of you use Dynamics 365 for things like case and matter management. Absolutely awesome. Imagine being able to drive into that data through natural language and say, hey, what are the patterns happening with X? And then the security copilot, which has been released, which is going to be really, really kind of consolidated into tools like Purview and really making sure that your data is kept safe and sound. Now, when I say that data is king and queen of this whole thing, please, I'm not saying it lightly, right? It is very, very important that you start thinking about data. Do not start snapping AI onto everything you can if your data is not right. You will break stuff. So when you start looking at the stack, we have this concept of Copilot ready solutions. So what are the things that are Copilot ready? Okay. Now, I love this idea. I read this from there was some Australian dude that wrote this article some time back, and I wish I could remember his name. I can never find it, but he said, I want to take the robot out of the human. So if you look at people who write code, and I'm just going to use this as an example. Okay, I don't develop anymore. I haven't written code in a while. I used to. I used to work for Borland. They wrote Delphi. And if I'd had the tools to test out my code the way I did before, oh man, it would have taken hours out of my schedule. And tools like Copilot for GitHub allow you to do that, allow you to kind of generate snippets and samples of code, and then kind of transform those into things that make logical sense. If I look at the Power Platform, which is actually going to be a big part of what I show you today, building things like applications and automations swiftly with natural language, it changes my life. Like the demo I'm going to give you today will show you exactly what I do from a day-to-day basis using the tech. This is not I haven't got a prescribed planned demo. I will show you actually things that I build, right? Which is really important. The one thing I want to say is that when you start looking at this stuff, right? I remember many moons ago, I used to get paid to make Excel documents. It was a great time. I was very young, and people used to say, "Hey, Chris, I need this thing made in Excel." I'm like, "Oh, I know how to do, VLOOKUPs. Excellent. I'll build this thing for you, and I'll bill you big, shiny bucket loads of money." And you don't need us for that. You don't need me for that anymore. So I've had to change my skill set and rethink my skill set. And what's interesting is that now, when I start looking at what I did then, I think, man, every person on this call can probably do that, which is amazing. And I recognize a lot of names on the call, by the way, and I'm not going to call anyone out, but I had a session with a legal firm some time back, and we were laughing about this, thinking, you know, it's amazing how people have changed the way in which their process and their perspective work. So, other than data, I am going to tell you that AI is a cultural change as much as it is a technical change. Okay, so please understand that. Now, my favorite thing also to talk about is AI going to take over? Are our toasters going to come to life and make us do their bidding? Will the skies bust open and Terminators fly through? Will Neo from the Matrix be here to protect us? Well, I have no idea, right? But what I can tell you is what I know now, and hopefully, the AI will be kind and not do that to us. But anyway, I do not think we should worry if AI is going to take over, and the reason for that is because there is a lot of governance and there's a lot of tools that can stop AI from doing dumb stuff. But again, it's going to come down to your data. If you put terrible things into your data and there is unconscious bias and all sorts of things, it will be surfaced in your AI. Like it will come through. So there is a whole process around visibility, transparency, and AI for good. So what I thought I'd do here is just get you to understand that AI Copilot, it is a co-pilot. It is not an autopilot. Okay. It's not here to fly the plane for you. That ain't the plan. It's to fly the plane with you. So it's about taking the robot out of the human, right? Giving you as much time back as it possibly can. And let me tell you, the time that I've got given back by AI and specifically Copilot is amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some stuff. I hope everyone's cool with that, right? So this is the part of things you really want to see. All the other stuff is waffle, right? This is what you want to see. So I'm going to present my screen and hopefully you can see that, right? Fraser, can you just give me a thumbs up if you got that on your end? Yep.
All good.
Cool. Thanks, pal. So I'm inside Microsoft 365 right now. And what I thought I would do is just, we'll start off with something pretty important, a tool that we use every day, and that's Bing. Okay. So Bing Chat for Enterprise, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it a question. So I'm going to be like, hey, what are you? So I just want to know. I'm going to interview Copilot. Let's do this thing. Let's try and figure out what's going on, like what this little thing is, right? So I am the new AI powered chat mode. Okay, cool. So this is awesome, right? By the way, not prepped, not planned. This is the way I use the tech all the time. Whatever it says here, I cannot be held responsible, just by the way. So if it decides to go rogue, that's the AI's fault. And hopefully it doesn't do anything weird. Wonderful. Okay, so it's told me what it is. However, I must refuse to discuss anything. Ooh, look at that. I've broken it, right? Amazing. So I'm going to ask it another thing. Are you here to take my job? This has had a weird response before, so let's just see what it does. No, I'm not here to take your job. I'm just a chat mode of Microsoft Bing. Cool, right? So I'm pretty safe. I'm pretty safe. Oh, so it's actually, look at that. It's locked down the topic. It says it doesn't want to talk to me anymore. So I have to make a new topic. Congratulations. So that is effectively the Copilot for Bing. And what you do is you use it alongside your search, right? So if I were to search legal news, and you can see I've got a bunch of the Law Gazette over there, good old Law Gazette, you can fire into chat mode and actually start asking it questions. Now, that is what you call a prompt. The thing that I've done there is a prompt, right? A prompt is something that you use to have a conversation with artificial intelligence, with the Copilot itself. And what it does is it takes the information you've given it and it transmogrifies that into something in the background and interrogates the large language model and then brings the information back up to you. Okay. So if the information is terrible that it's looking at, the information that you get will be terrible as well. I bring forward a scenario that happened in the States where somebody hadn't prepared for one of their legal cases and they went to court and they tried to use ChatGPT to run the case and build the documents, and it failed miserably because it actually pulled out incorrect information. Okay. And unfortunately, that's called a hallucination in AI. And when it did that, there's nothing you can do because you pointed it at the wrong data source. So that's really key. There was a question in the chat earlier that said, what about pointing to repositories such as iManage and Adherence? Why not? You can point this thing anywhere, right? As long as there's an API, you're pretty gold, right? But the question I have for you is how accurate is your information in there? Another question I got asked pretty recently was, hey, Chris, what about all our documentation inside a SharePoint list? I'm like, okay, how many nested layers of SharePoint documents do you have? How are they stored? Are those documents classified correctly? What metadata do you have around those documents? Oh, there's a whole nother discussion now because that unstructured data is not stored correctly. So you have to think about the data first before you do anything. It's the same as writing a report. So if your report is terrible, sorry, if your data is terrible, your report is terrible. Which brings me on to my next thing. I want to talk about Copilot for Power BI, right? Now, I'm going to share my screen sound, okay? So please don't get a fright when I play this. And it is definitely not my voice, I can promise. So hopefully this all works out. And there we go. So let's give it a run. Everyone ready? This is what you call Copilot for Power BI. Just by the way, sorry, this is in preview. I would love to demo this to you. So this is the only video you will ever see me show ever in my entire life. Okay. Whoops. Folks, I'm sorry. I don't know if the sound was coming through. Was it coming through? Anyway, I'll move on, right? Sadly not. Okay, don't worry too much. I mean, I'll talk you through it real quick. But a couple of interesting things happened here. So you can see that the person in the video is using, apologies, I don't know why the sound didn't come through, but the person in the video was using prompts. Okay, so you can actually see that they're prompting the Power BI. Now, I want you to just observe something on the right-hand side. You can see that that is my data. Okay, my data that is connected into Power BI is effectively my source. So it is looking at that source data, and I'm prompting it to give me information. All right. From there, as I prompt, it automatically generates the report. So I do not know the answer to if it will use templates, etc., etc. Sadly, this is still in preview, so I haven't been given access yet. At the moment I do, I'll be pretty stoked because I will literally build all my Power BI reports like this. Mine look diabolical. This looks really good. And actually, as you build it out, you can kind of start running through the process of slicing and dicing and changing visuals and things like that, and you can track the whole history on the Copilot on the right hand side. Also, something very cool is your key indicators or key influences. Again, this is actually a built-in AI visualization in Power BI. You probably didn't know about this, but actually, if you just go to Power BI desktop, you can add this visualization straight off the bat, right? You do not need to do anything fancy, and it will start interrogating your data using artificial intelligence. So it's actually really special. And what I found is that the more you kind of start like asking it to change the color and the layout and that type of thing, the more you can see actually it edits the report for you on the fly. There is no need to do any physical text type, any graphical manipulation or anything like that. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. I thought it looked pretty cool. Also, another key thing is your insights. There's an insights widget inside it that'll actually automatically bring out any insights that's available in Power BI. Okay. So yeah, so we got a chat. Really liking Copilot and Power BI. Do we know when this will be come out in preview? I think it will probably be after Microsoft Ignites or Inspire. It's one of the ones in December. So you'll find a lot of those coming out there. There's also been a wonderful question in the chat of uh, are each of these Copilots licensed separately? Absolutely not. So you get Copilot with most of the products that you purchase, like Power BI, Copilot comes as a standard. Dynamics Copilot comes with it, okay? Except for Microsoft 365 Copilot. And as far as I know, that is $40 per user per month. Sorry, $30 per user per month. I'm not Microsoft, folks, so I don't control the licensing. But yeah, that's really important, okay? So that is effectively your analytics layer on the Copilot piece, which I thought was quite cool. So I really wanted to give you a peek at that. There's a couple of other things I wanted to show you. And now I'm going to get uber nerdy. Okay. So this legal news website, right? I mean, some people use it, some people don't. I'm not super good at understanding how this site would work. But what I want to do is I actually want to build myself a virtual agent that allows people to query this website without having to log on and go into tools like ChatGPT. So in Power Platform, there is a tool called Power Virtual Agents, and it lets me make bots. And these bots can be embedded in pages or whatever you'd like, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new chat bot, and we're going to call it Legal Bot 01. And I'm going to point this bot at that website, okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit create. Now check, nothing up the sleeves, right? Everything I'm showing you here is stock standard functionality. And what it's going to do is it's going to actually link this bot up, this virtual agent, directly to the website. Will I be demoing Security Copilot? Sadly not. I will not be demoing Security Copilot. I'm happy to set up a separate session to show that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask this bot a question. And I'm going to say, ex-post office solicitor tells inquiry. So what I'll do is I'll go and say, what does ex-post office solicitor say? And let's have a look, right? So it's actually going to go and interrogate the website. So yes, so Power Virtual Agents is available to you in M365, but as a part of a thing called Dataverse for Teams. So you can actually build that in there. Be careful and beware, right? You must have your data policies turned on or you will break something. So according to the article, ex-post office solicitor tells inquiry that I had nothing to hide, right? I've just embedded that in a bot. So that's pretty good. And all I need to do is if I really want to, I can go to the Copilot accessibility actions and actually write out my own things. I can add more websites. So I can consolidate different kind of areas or sites before. I can increase the size of the screen. Absolutely. There you go. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that helps. If you wouldn't mind, Fernando, just giving me a thumbs up on the chat or whatever, if that works better for you. Cool. So you can actually go and start tracking and managing what this bot does with multiple different sources. If you want to, big preface on if you want to, including your own data internally. All right. So that is a big, big deal. Other things we can do is if you want to write your own topics, you have more than the availability to do so. So I can say, make a new topic, create a CoPilot, we'll call it legal, and say, let's get a user to ask about certain legal documents and their locations. Okay, again, I'm just using the tools, right? I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm basically just prompting the bots to make me something using the Copilot functionality. So it's getting embedded in everything. And actually, what it's done for me, I'm gonna have to zoom out a little bit on this one so you can see. So it's actually built me a whole process. And what I can do is say, do I need a lawyer? So let's pop it in there. Do I need a lawyer? And this you can pop onto your website if you really want to. So it's actually sending me, and it's going to take me down the program of work. So I'm going to say, what legal document am I looking for? Dockets A. I can't spell. Where's the document located? At home. And you can actually see it's driving me down the process. So again, folks, I've done nothing fancy here. I've just used the Copilot functionality to build out this process for me, okay? And you can point that at your own data as well. So that's Power Virtual Agents, right? So what I've done is I've taken an external news source. I've been able to create a bot directly off that and link it up to that external news source, but also using an internal structure, I've been able to set up a bot framework that'll, an agent that'll point to my data wherever it is, all right? So that's Power Virtual Agents. Pretty cool, right? I say we get an extra level of nerdy. I don't know how you'll feel about that. But this is a tool called Power Apps. And Power Apps is part of the Power Platform. Okay. And what it lets me do is it lets me build applications kind of when and as I need to. So as the example would go, what may happen is you may have a requirement to build an inquiry solution that somebody would say, hey, I would like to inquire about X, Y, and Z. And there's a question in the chat that says, is it correct to say that Copilot just is extractive AI and not predictive AI or generative AI? It is actually generative AI, okay? I wouldn't call it predictive AI. You can use machine learning for that. And it is, I would say it's also kind of classed as extractive AI. It is definitely generative because it does use ChatGPT under the background. Okay. It has to be generative. One thing I will tell you is that this version that I'm using is based on GPT-3. When GPT number 5 comes out, you will be looking at what you call multi-model. So GPT-3 at the moment, see GPT-3 is kind of a flat structure and it only does like generative AI on 2 different planes. Multi-model will do multiple planes. So you'll be able to build multiple kind of, I would say, accessed solutions. That's the best way to describe it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an app. I'm going to say, I'm going to be kind to the AI. Please, we always be kind in case it does actually take over. Please make me an app to track legal inquiries. I can't spell very well, so there we go. Please make me an app to track legal inquiries with date and time. Cool. So what it's doing, you can see the Copilot embedded on the form on the right-hand side, and it's actually going to go ahead and tell me what it's doing. Okay, so it'll give me suggestions, and it'll tell me what it's doing here. And it's actually said there's a whole bunch of information around legal inquiries. Now I'm not happy with that data, so please add a column for inquiry type. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm building on the data model and I'm adding more and more to the data model. And it's really quite cool. So as I add things, it'll start building out more and more of the solution that I'm trying to create. And what you will find is that, there we go, legal, financial, medical, legal, financial, cool. And then I can go ahead and build that app. And actually, when I was at the emergency services show last week, I did this live. I actually got to be in person, which was cool. And we built the app, published it to the phone, and then started taking photos of random equipment around the hall and publishing it back. And people got the information straight off the bat. So I'm building a mobile responsive app that deals with legal inquiries. So you may be in front of somebody making a request that deals with those inquiries there and then. And I've been able to build you an app within maybe, I don't know, 2 sentences, which is absolutely insane. So this is why it is absolutely generative AI. Here's the application. Granted, it does not look gorgeous. You will need to do some look and feel type stuff. Let's close the CoPilot. But you can actually run the app, and I could publish this directly to my mobile phone. So to show you that it is actually responsive, there you go there. All right. So I've made myself an application. That's absolutely bananas. The last thing I'll show you is on the automation side. And when you're building automations, you can actually use Copilot to edit things like Microsoft Power Automate. So as you can see, I've got a Power Automate flow. This flow is a bit like the wind. It runs in the background. It gives you results. And it's very good at using Copilot. And the Copilot actually tells me what this flow does. Okay. So it's kind of giving me a breakdown. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, add a post to Teams action. So I'll add a quick post to Teams action right over there, and it's going to update the flow straight off the bat without me having to type very much. Very, very simple type of stuff, but this is what you can expect to see with the rest of the Copilots that get released in the Microsoft stack. Very, very scary, but very, very cool. So there's my post to Teams action right over there. Okay. So all I've done is I've shown you how to build an agent using Copilot, how to build an app, and how to edit Power Automate flow using these tools. The last thing I want to just explain to you real quick when I move through that is around your ecosystem enablement. So when looking at the concepts of Copilot, it's important to know that from an ecosystem perspective, you need to have the right tools in place to make sure that your things are looked after, like your data and your security and that. And there was a security question there. So we call it a digital ecosystem, and what you'll find is that that's a collection of people, processes, and platforms that drive this utilization of AI, right? Now, one example I will give you very quickly is that in Power Platform that I've just shown you, there are a bunch of connectors that you need to make sure you block or enable. The Copilot will obey the connectors that you've blocked. Very, very important, all right? And ultimately, the whole idea is that when you're going down this journey, it's important to think around the number of processes that you put in to extend and manage that program, the platform that you use, so whether you're going to enable all Copilots or just one or two, the people that you enable from a cultural perspective, which is super important, and the things that you make. And very, very important, that entire ecosystem works together in huge amounts of fluidity. Okay. So last couple of points that I want to leave you with, and that is these. What are we seeing in the market? Well, first of all, be transparent. You absolutely have to be transparent. AI for Good stipulates transparency around data. It's also very key that you get the value from the data that you need. Make sure your data is good. I promise if your data is bad, this is not going to work. All right. This is a severe heads up to you. All right. Make sure that you have accessibility involved as well. Right. Very, very key to promote and provide to a wider audience. And what do the organizations kind of need to consider when going through this journey? Number one is culture and adoption. Don't just think that this is going to happen. It's really important to understand that culturally AI is going to change. Number two, data quality. Absolutely have your data in order, folks. This is not a joke. Like, I really cannot stipulate this enough. Get your data sorted and then wrap that with security, right? We've had the security question already. Absolutely wrap that data with security. Finally, ethical and responsible usage. You cannot profile people with AI. That is not within the AI for Good standards. There are a number of rules around that, and I'd suggest just looking them up real quick, and then finally get them guardrails in place. And that's really around data, the security, and the connections you're using to data. Last little bit is that we promote the adoption journey first before extending and building. We've had a question already about what to build and when. By the way, yes, David, this can be pointed at SharePoint. Which, by the way, is not the best place for structured data. Unstructured data, yes. Structured data, no. But extending Copilots, get your adoption done first, and then look at extension. I will get to that, Robert. Rupert. That's a brutal question. And then finally, once you've gotten your adoption and extend working, then look at building much more widely. Last things. So remember, you very likely have got Copilots in your business in some way, some form, and you may not know it. So it's a good idea to kind of understand that it is there and it is going to be there in a lot of the tools. So be prepared. Respect your data, and respect your data. Okay. And then thirdly, dare to do, folks. This is not going anywhere other than up. So make sure that you've got you are ready culturally for what's going to happen. As I said, this is not going to disappear, right? Good data in my mind is basically the right data and the right data structures with respect to security. And when I say the right data, PII data not stored in SharePoint and Excel. I have a much wider discussion I can have on that one. So is there a minimum number of licenses for CoPilot to work? No, because CoPilot is included in pretty much every single Microsoft product unless you buy the Microsoft 365 product. And I will buy one, right? And then last question is when will all of this be available for my company to use? When it's outside of public preview, very likely after Microsoft Inspire, that is in November. Okay, all co-pilots are going to have their own different release dates from a product perspective, but I know Microsoft 365 will be 1st of November. And is there a way for me to, as an IT admin, get early access? Absolutely. You need to apply for the Copilot Insiders program. Stick me a message, Nick, probably on LinkedIn, and I can send you the link for that. The Power BI and Power Automate, sorry, is already out now. So you can get access to that by creating a feature trial, but it's definitely worth getting in touch. Okay. Sorry, I've had to fly through a lot of that because I got carried away on the demos. Does the security Copilot extend beyond the Microsoft ecosystem? No, I don't think it does, but that is definitely a takeaway. So, John, I guess we'll pop that down and chat to our security dude and get that info for you. I'm looking for what else. Goodness me. Thanks, folks. I know that was like a roller coaster, right? But I hope some of it helped, and I hope we gave you a decent view into what we're doing with Copilot. I just want to give you a heads up, right? There are a number of organizations out there who are still learning. We are still learning. Microsoft is still learning. So what I would say is that we're all in this together. And any feedback that you can give and any ideas that you have, we try and fire that back up to Microsoft as well. So don't feel as if like there's a blocker or anything. Okay. I just wanted to say a huge thanks to all of you for joining this. Like I said, I know it's been a total whirlwind, but yeah, Fraser and I are more than happy to get into a chat and walk you through some of the adoption stuff that we've learned. And by the way, I do want to tell you, we don't get everything right first time. We've gone through a number of these iterations where we've learned some valuable lessons. So yeah, we're picking up some good learnings from all of you. And thank you again. Right.
Yeah,
I've tried to answer
Thanks,
everything. Yeah, cool. Fraser, do you want to wrap up? But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, thanks everyone again for joining. Chris, that was great. Really appreciate your time as always. And yeah, there's my details. So please do reach out to me if you have any questions. Want to set up a session with myself and Chris. And yeah, no, look forward to speaking to you all.
Cool. And folks, thank you for your time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. What a wonderful audience.